Hi, and welcome back to the Positive Prepper. So many of you saw my YouTube short I put out yesterday or the day before that I was going to have 5 videos. Well, after I started going through all of my notes, I realized that I cannot sort this out into the compartments that I wanted to do, like race, weather, religion, wealth, ideology, and health, because they're all so intertwined, and the impacts from what's going on address all of those. So instead of doing it that way, what I'm going to do is this will be a 20-minute video, and then whatever I don't cover in this one, I will do another 20-minute video. I want this to be very informational for you. This is not going to be a political video. This is going to be a video that everybody should be watching and paying attention to. The only thing that I will say about politics, obviously keeping a close eye on what's going on in Minneapolis, along with other areas. But if we disagree politically, it's probably because we disagree biblically. And so I don't know how to find common ground on that one. And then true Christians are strong enough to overcome the darkness, but collectively I think true Christians have gotten very collectively weak. I don't think that they can stand up for anything anymore. They seem to want to change the Bible for what's going on, but you know, God's word is endless and timeless. It should be exactly as it is, no matter what's going on. And one thing that there's really not a lot of depth to, but I want you to pay attention to this, is, have you guys noticed like Hollywood's appearance lately, men and women, mainly women, but even in the men, they have what they call the Ozempic face, where they're really, like, their jaws are really pulled tight and their cheekbones are more prominent, but they don't look right. But even if you look outside of that, if you look in their eyes, watch them on TV sometime when they're doing interviews or whatever. There's something not right about these Hollywood people. Like, there's nothing in their eyes anymore. They're soulless. They're hollow. There's nothing there anymore. So I don't know what kind of demonic stuff is happening in there. All I can do is just keep praying that they will find the light. That would probably be a good thing. But I just wanted to bring that up because it's like, I don't know what's going on. I'm glad I'm not a part of it. Okay, so for the in-depth meat part of this, I don't know if you guys are aware, but back in 2016, President Obama signed the 21st Century Cures Act, Cures, C-U-R-E-S Act. And in that act, Section 3024, it basically says straight out that it is legal to experiment on people in the United States without their consent. And you can look it up. It's there, black and white. They determine the risk factor, and if it seems like there's a really low risk factor for any detrimental health, whatever, they don't have to get your informed consent to experiment on you. So why am I bringing this up? Well, part of this, there's 2 parts to it. The first one, as we all know, occurred during 2020, okay, which I and my family completely avoided. But since then, and I'm going to bring this up partly because it's why I haven't been putting videos out as much as I should be, but the other part of it is, I am probably one of those people that was experimented on without my consent. As many of you know, last year I started out the year with, I had surgery on my lung because they found an abscess the size of a golf ball, and they had to go in. I had to have lung surgery. And then this year, a couple weeks ago, I fell on the ice and fractured my tailbone, and I got a concussion, and I'm dealing still with the effects of that. But at any time during any of those two major events in my life, this nanotechnology that was very prevalent in the things going on in 2020 could very easily have been put in me without my knowledge or consent. So none of us are immune from this. So there's a website, it's called stop3024.com, and Jesse Beltran is one that I watched an interview that he had, and he has this, it's like $22,000 gadget that he has that can tell you if you test positive for having this nanotechnology in you. And he tied this in with the Havana syndrome. So these people that were getting the headaches and they were hearing these sounds, right? And people would go in and they complain about it, and then they would be told that they have schizophrenia. And then they were being put in hospitals and being given medication against their will for schizophrenia, which they didn't have. It's actually the nanotechnology that was in them, and it was being controlled by the frequencies that was doing all this stuff in their head, right? Well, so we would understand, especially like people in the cities, people that go to the doctor, with their, if you have a long-term health issue that you need to constantly go see the doctor for or be monitored for, I could understand that you would have a greater risk to having something like that put in you. But he was even finding this in people that you would not necessarily associate with that kind of technology. For example, the Amish, tribal people, there should be no reason for them to have it because they don't go in for these types of medical events, right? But he was still finding them. And I had done a video, I remember, this was quite a while ago, maybe 2-3 years ago, about because you have that nanotechnology in you, does that make you human? Or are you now patentable, right? Because you are technology, you're not technically fully human. But so he was talking about how basically now they have the ability to control these people with that nanotechnology, and that was coming out in the Havana syndrome. But what's happening is when they turn a switch on, and I'm going to try to walk through this really big bird style, so bear with me. If they turn a switch on in a certain group of people, they can get this group of people to think this way. Okay? And then over here they go, well, okay, our goal is to divide and conquer, right? Because that's how we control the masses. So we're going to get this other group of people over here to start thinking this way. And so because these two groups are thinking two different ways, obviously they're going to clash. Look at Minneapolis. Not saying that that's what's going on, but that's an example. And then if you don't conform to what they want you to do, then they can just shut you down. They can just shut you down. And all of a sudden, you've got all of these things going wrong with you because you're no longer an asset to society, right? Your social credit score is not high enough. We can just shut you down, and we can give you whatever we want and make you unalive. And so this is a real thing, guys. This isn't science fiction anymore. This is real stuff. It's real stuff that's really happening. And we all went berserk when 5G came along because we knew that 5G was going to have a part in this, and it does. Well, China now has 6G in some of their areas, and they're working on it here in the United States. Okay? So when 6G comes about, I want you to hold on to that a minute. I want you to hold on to that 6G a second. Okay. I want you to think about what's been happening weather-wise. Right? Hold on to that 6G because this ties together. Okay? Think about what's going on weather-wise. I sat and watched a bunch of YouTube videos the other day about people that would go out on their decks and they would get a handful of snow and they would bind that up and they would try to melt that snow and it was coming out black. Okay? And then a few of them put it under their microscope and it wasn't like just water molecules under the microscope. There were these cross, like T-shaped, what it ended up being was microplastics in the snow. And that's a real thing, okay? In our skies, we all see these, the chemtrails and stuff going through, okay? Those have graphene oxide in them. And other things, right? Because we want to control the weather. Okay? Well, graphene oxide greatly amplifies RF signals, radio frequencies, right? So if you have 6G and you are putting all of this stuff into the atmosphere, and we have the nanotechnology in our bodies, what that 6G is going to allow is for these people, which is the top 1% of the top 1% of the elite. Okay? Those are the people that are in control. But this graphene oxide amplifies those radio frequencies. The 6G is going to allow, and this is how they actually say it. 6G is designed to create a cyber physical world where digital and physical realities converge. So people right now that have this Havana syndrome, that are just hearing these voices and getting this humming noise, like this vibration in their body, this is way beyond that. It's absolute mind control. And they showed what's called the Central Command Platform. It's the accountable infrastructure. So what they can do is they can take Joe Blow on the street and they can take a picture of him, of his face. So think of all the camera technology, right? It's walking to Walmart. It's right there, right? And their technology can tell you what he was doing 3 days before that at 9:56 p.m. And they can track every movement that he had up until that exact moment. And then they can put these things in his head. Well, you know, why don't you I don't know, go down to the bar and have a drink and then get in your car because we want to have you arrested for drunk driving. I mean, I'm really minimalizing this, but they really are going to have that kind of control when 6G gets put in place. And if you don't conform to any of this, it's going to be very easy for them to unalive you. So our health systems and our weather systems are being weaponized against us. So it's going to be very important when you go in to the doctor or the dentist or any medical anything and check the fine print and make sure that on the bottom it doesn't say that you are acknowledging that your health information is going to go to the NSA. Don't agree to that. Okay? Read that fine print. So everything has been, it's all been weaponized. Anybody with that nanotechnology in them has become a transmitter and a receiver. And you are connected to the internet. And when that 6G comes, you know, anybody can come in and hack your computer. Anybody's going to be able to come in and hack that nanotechnology that's in you. What's really interesting is that those frequencies that will affect that nanotechnology in your body, those frequencies go to military subcontractors and telecommunications companies. That's interesting. Why does the military need to have access to that? And why do telecommunications companies need access to that? I don't need to answer that question for you. You've got the idea. And again, it's the top 1% of the top 1% of elites that are completely in control of all of this, and they're making all of this happen. And you know that we're all heading for that digital ID, which I'm going to talk about in another video because I don't have time in this one. That's what it's all about. You will own nothing and you'll be happy. And they got that first person in New York City. The next piece of this that you need to be aware of is Stardust Solutions. And I know I need to talk about this fast because I said I'd stay within that 20 minutes. So Stardust Solutions, basically what they're going to do in April. Now this is the United States and Israel got together for the engineering aspect of this. Okay, let's figure out how to make this work. So it's called Stardust Solutions. You can look it up. And what they do is they do cloud dispersal to reflect the sunlight back into space. So any sunlight that comes in, they go, no, we don't want that. And they're going to try to see if they can push that sunlight back out. Okay, so obviously this is going to disrupt regional weather patterns. It's going to disrupt your food supplies. If they decide that it's not going to work, and then they've been using it for a while, and then they instantly cut it off, that could lead to rapid and dangerous temperature increase. Because now all of a sudden, all of that sunlight is going to come bouncing back in and hit the earth, and we're going to be like, oh, dang, right? Canada and Israel, they went together into a venture capital firm, which is tied to Mossad. And so the obvious concern then is militarization of this, reflecting the sunlight back. Okay? I know this is a lot to take in, trust me. But we're going to, through the next couple of videos, we'll kind of be coming back to some of this and filling in the pieces. So I'm going to stop there with the information because I feel like this was probably information overload for you. But I don't want to end this without telling you some things that you need to be doing right now as preppers. Okay, obviously keep doing what you're doing with the food and your medical supplies and your bug out bags and stuff like that. But because they're putting this technology in the air and in the water and in the snow and in your food, right now, like for us in Wisconsin, obviously our spring is right around the corner. You need to have water catchment systems that can filter out microplastics and chemicals that they put in the cloud seeding, down to at least the 5 micron level. Okay, so you need to have very, 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 very good filters for your water catchment systems. And if you, with your filters, when you change them out, you have to handle those as if they were hazardous waste because of all the chemicals that are in those. So you don't want to burn them, don't compost them, don't break them open. You need to double bag them and then put them in your trash. Get them away from you, okay? The second thing, you have to have alternate growing operations. Because if they're going to start reflecting away the sunlight, your growing seasons and your growing patterns are going to be completely affected by this. So you need to think about having either a greenhouse, an in-ground greenhouse, the wall of peonies, anything like that that's outside of just your traditional gardens, okay? You need to really be thinking about alternative methods of growing. You can't rely on the Old Farmer's Almanac. April showers, not necessarily guaranteed to bring May flowers anymore. You might need to cover your growing areas to make sure that those chemicals don't get into your food systems. And then, of course, filter your water. Reverse osmosis systems are the best for your water catchment systems, so look into that. But these are things that you need to start thinking about right now, because they're not playing anymore, guys. People are catching on, and the more people catch on, the more fierce and fast, I guess fast and furious, they're going to try to keep bringing this stuff on us. So do what you can do. Start thinking about it now for your growing season, what you can do. I will be doing another video. Obviously, this was a lot of information. This is just the tip of the iceberg with what we have. So bear with us. Another video will come out tomorrow. Stay safe, stay vigilant, and God bless.